City Council makes its decision on the future of the historic James Whalen Tug. Good evening and thank you for joining us. More than 2 years after it sank into the Cam River, Council has decided to preserve select pieces of the vessel. The decision came during last night's meeting after some councillors stressed the historical significance of the Whalen. Vasilios Bellows was at City Hall last night. Vasilios, how much is this all going to cost?
Brian, the city's estimating a $540,000 price tag, which includes preserving historical pieces of the vessel and scrapping the remainder. That doesn't include the $1 million or so already spent on the century-old ship since it sank in 2022. Select pieces of the historic James Whalen Tug will be preserved.
We'll be able to tell our grandchildren, great-grandchildren about our rich cultural transportation history.
In a 7-5 vote, Thunder Bay City Council decided to preserve the vessel's bridge, stack, and some railings for future display, with the rest of the tug now set to be scrapped. It'll cost $540,000, which is on top of the about $1 million already spent on raising and relocating the tug after it sank at Cam River Heritage Park in 2022. There was a lengthy debate prior to the decision, with some like Councillor Dominic Pascalino questioning if the community even wants any of the vessel preserved.
It's going to be a constant reminder of the failures that happened to what happened to this ship.
The public actually screaming for investment in the James Whalen. Never seen it until the boat sank.
Others, like Councillor Brian Hamilton, felt there wasn't significant public interest in the boat until the 2022 incident. Hamilton feared spending money on the Whalen might come at the cost of other projects, a challenge in a city already dealing with a $32 million infrastructure gap.
What's the actual true cost of this when we're looking at our budget and we're determining where to put those dollars? And are we going to put it here when we're looking at something else that is going to be incredibly important to the health and vitality of our community?
While there was clearly opposition, the ultimate vote in favor of preservation appeared to be based on the historical importance of the James Whalen, which was built in 1905 and served the city for decades.
Unfortunately, having to vote to spend more money on it, but I'm in favor of keeping the history alive for the significance it's made into Port Arthur, Fort William, and now Thunder Bay.
Where the pieces of the tug will be displayed is still unclear, though the Thunder Bay Transportation Museum has shown interest.
We could be the ones maintaining and looking after it.
Chair Wally Peterson has been interested in bringing the tug to their Pool 6 site since before it sank. He says that isn't possible right now, as the city is conducting a best use study for the site.
Until the best use study is completed, they don't want to put any more artifacts down on our area, so we've been discussing with administration where we could put and store pieces of the ship and preserve what we can.
Vasilios Bellows, TBT News.
Council also heard a deputation last night from the Regional Food Distribution Association. The group does what it can to ensure no one in the region goes hungry, and that's becoming more and more challenging. The rfda has seen a 33% increase in users over the past year alone, which could lead to difficult decisions in the future. The deputation focused on the increased demand and the organization's struggles as a result. Board Chair June Gaw warned that without further support, the rfda may have to shut down its home food delivery service for seniors and shut-ins.
It's a cut we don't want to see happen because these people really desperately need help. And we see it when we do our Christmas hamper project for senior singles and couples. We have deliveries and we know that there are people that are stuck in their apartments, in their homes, and they just can't get out. But again, there's always the cost involved, and that's what we have to be able to justify.
A number of council members praised the work the rfda is doing and committed to continued support for the group. For the 5th time in the past 3 years, there's been a collision at Sistonen's Corner in which a transport has blown through the stop sign on Highway 102. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries in this latest crash, which happened just before 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon. It was all caught on surveillance video. This footage shows the transport approaching on the right side of the screen and failing to stop at the Highway 1117 intersection. An SUV traveling eastbound had no time to stop and crashed into the side of the transport's cab. OPP say the 2 people in the SUV were checked by paramedics on scene, but didn't need to be sent to hospital. The driver of the transport, a 40-year-old man from Calgary, has been charged with careless driving. A new survey indicates that most residents trust the Thunder Bay Police Service. The force received a 78% positive rating in a satisfaction and trust survey conducted from September of 2023 until March of this year. As for Indigenous respondents, the survey showed 69% responded positively. The results were presented at this morning's police board meeting. Jessica Clement has the details.
To gain insight into how residents feel about Thunder Bay Police, a satisfaction and trust survey was launched back in September of last year until March of this year. Communications Director Tracy Smith presented the findings at Tuesday's police board meeting.
Overall, we were able to hear from just under 2,000 people with a composition very closely resembling the composition of our community. And overarching results are that community satisfaction is about 78% positive for Thunder Bay Police Service.
Smith notes that breaking down the survey results showed that Indigenous respondents had lower satisfaction and trust towards the Thunder Bay Police Service, with 69% feeling positively about it. Smith says it's something that they're aware of and are working hard to address.
First and foremost is listening to the community. Chief Darcy Fleury is very active in engaging with the Indigenous Leadership Collaborative, which is comprised of Indigenous leaders from organizations across our community, and they're providing guidance in terms of our path and really providing great resource for that.
Feedback from board members included opening up future surveys to more people and more ethnicities and making the surveys more efficient. Chief Darcy Fleury says the survey is a good marker as to where they are now and will help them figure out where they need to go.
Well, it'll help us, kind of develop overall with the board and their strategic plan, and then it'll help us with our action plan as to, we're moving in the right direction. We have set some priorities, and we believe those are good priorities as far as the things that we wanted to see in our first part of time being here for the last year and a half. So it'll be a good marker to see in the next survey and as we go forward if we're on the mark, and if we need to adjust, we will.
The full survey results are available on the Thunder Bay Police website. Jessica Clement, TVT News.
There's continued concern about Ontario's decision to close 10 safe consumption sites across the province, including the one here in Thunder Bay. Now, faith leaders are speaking out, saying the centres are part of the solution and the support they offer is desperately needed. CTV's Siobhan Morris reports.
Closing it down is going to kill a lot of people. They're going to die. It's going to be a crisis.
Tears of anguish over a decision that those who've used supervised drug consumption sites and those who support them believe is a death sentence.
For the sons, for the daughters whose lives have been hijacked by mental illness, trauma, and addiction, the underhoused and the marginalized.
244 faith leaders from across Ontario have signed a letter addressed to the Premier and Minister of Health. They're pleading for a reversal of the plan to close 10 of 17 centres close to schools or daycares, stressing that faith is about leading with love.
And we who are standing on this stage and those who have signed this letter believe that harms reduction is a way that we show and demonstrate that love.
They worry addicts will be forced to use in public. The danger of needles on the street will only get worse.
There should be a clear and supportive policy that makes it understandable that people are seen as human beings.
A spokesperson for the Minister of Health says the government's taking action to keep communities safe and support the recovery of those struggling with addiction. Consumption sites can apply to transition to care hubs without drug use and needle exchanges, something faith leaders want the Premier to understand is needed.
If facts and figures and science and data have all failed, perhaps we have a chance to reach his humanity.
Jennifer Hare describes herself as an addict of 30 years, 2 years clean, a milestone the supports and care of the Kensington supervised consumption site played a big role in.
It's so hard to untangle, but if you get things done and it helps you feel good, and then you start to feel better about yourself and start not using.
Faith leaders are considering how best to help addicts if the government doesn't reverse course, with signs letting them know where naloxone can be found, potentially joining lawsuits, maybe even opening an unsanctioned consumption site. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
3 Marathon residents face numerous drug charges. Officers from the Marathon OPP detachment were initially called late yesterday afternoon about a vehicle that was stuck on a bush road off Highway 17. The search of the vehicle revealed suspected cocaine and methamphetamine pills. Police then searched 2 homes in the town. They found more than 2 pounds of cocaine, more than 1,000 speed pills, 18 grams of heroin, and cash. OPP estimate the value of the illegal drugs at more than $40,000. The 3 suspects, age 54, 35, and 33, face multiple charges, including possession for the purpose of trafficking. Roughly 30 people gathered at dawn this morning for the Full Moon Memory Walk. The annual event commemorates the many Indigenous women who have gone missing or been murdered here in the city. Lee Noonan was there.
Irene, Claudette, Rena, Sandra. Only 4 of many Indigenous women who've been killed or disappeared in the city. This year's Full Moon Memory Walk started with a sunrise ceremony in their honor. Elder Linda Barkman's daughter, Irene, was murdered in 2018. She says it's important to draw attention to the violence faced by First Nations women, like Irene, and to remember them.
My daughter was a beautiful person. She loved life. She did everything to the fullest. She loved her 3 children. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think of her.
The walk started on the bank of the Neebing-McIntyre floodway, where the body of Sandra Johnson was found 32 years ago. That case is still unsolved. NAN Deputy Grand Chief Annabette Achnapanescum says there are hundreds of Indigenous people in the city who've lost family members of all genders.
When a group of individuals, in this case First Nation or Indigenous peoples, when they are targeted and when the system, the Euro-Canadian court system, prevents forms of justice and prevention, then we can refer to that as genocide.
The walkers made their way from across the city to Roots Community Food Center. Sandra Johnson's sister, Sharon Johnson, says it's helped in her own healing to be involved in organizing events like the Full Moon Memory Walk.
I think for about the first 10 years, I couldn't say her name without breaking down and crying. And I didn't want to be around anybody. Whenever I saw that there was a rally or a vigil somewhere in town, I didn't want to be any part of that for about the first 10 years until I got involved with the work.
Organizers of the walk say this work is year-round. They're already preparing for the Valentine's Day Memorial Walk in February. They're putting a call out to anyone who might be able to donate a red dress for that event to reach out to them via Full Moon Memory Walk on Facebook. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Amid record-breaking temperatures this week, many of the city's vulnerable residents are looking for a place to beat the heat. The Pace Cooling Center on Victoria Avenue isn't normally a busy place this time of year, but has played an important role over the past few days. Pace first opened the facility in 2020, originally as a warming center during the cold winter months. But on hot summer days, it's there to help an average of about 100 people a day. Snacks and cold beverages are provided in that safe space for people to cool off and stay hydrated. Executive Director Georgina McKinnon says as the latest heat wave continues, there will be a lot more people looking for relief.
Yesterday, we were at a temperature of 27 and 36 with the Humidex, so we saw our numbers go up. We have cold drinks available for them. They can have a shower to cool off, change of clothes, get into some clean clothes, and seek any help that they may be looking for. We can get them at here.
So how can people kind of help, Pace?
We're always looking for donations of freezies, juice, pop,
as well as clothing, sweaters, pants, t-shirts, anything that the clients can kind of use out in the conditions. And with winter coming, we're kind of ramping up for the winter and trying to get as much donations as we can.
And those donations, like you heard there, they need cold beverages, snacks, and freezies, can be dropped off during the week at the center on Victoria Avenue. All right, as we turn to the weather, that's a great segue, Haley, because we can see those temperatures. They're behind you, 28. Again, the humidex into the 30s. Not typical for this time of year, to be sure.
For sure, it's understandably alarming actually, because typically for this time of year, our high for the day is around 11 degrees cooler than what we're seeing. So we had a high of 28 today, which we hit around 4 in the afternoon, but that is definitely not what we're supposed to be seeing at this time of year. So it could definitely throw people off guard, not be prepared. But I'm hoping that we're coming to an end of this heat stretch, because it is quite crazy, especially when the humidex plays a factor like it does, feeling like 34 today. Now, we did have a low of 15, but that was earlier in the morning, and that's still about 10 degrees hotter than a typical low that we'd see at this time of year. So all around, just overall hotter than we'd like to see right now. We had a partly cloudy day, and there was moments of a little extra sunshine with a little bit of gustiness coming in the last hour or so from the south-southwest. But really, our attention should be drawn to the west side of the region as we're seeing a precipitation system start to move in. So we have this larger area here with a bit of an outstretched arm that caused a few areas to see a bit of a foggy, misty morning this morning. But as the day progressed, we didn't see the system move that far outward, except for it did grow larger and it did increase in intensity as well. So when we look at areas like Red Lake, they're experiencing the brunt of it right now. Last night they had a prediction about 30 to 40 millimeters of rain, but now that's increased as they've seen continual showers. So over the course of the storm, they could see about 50 to 80 millimeters of rain. And thunderstorms have manifested at this hour. It started lighter rain in the day, but has increased in that intensity like I mentioned. And that is making them a little bit cooler than other areas of the region. They're at 23 right now, but humidex is still playing a factor, making it feel high 20s and early 30s there. Kenora has an interesting situation. They were mostly cloudy for most of the day with a few pop-up showers here and there, but they do have a rainfall warning and also a tornado warning. As the way that the system is moving, it may cause some extra wind gusts and those specific conditions of a tornado. And that wouldn't be the first time we've seen light tornadoes throughout the region this year. So that is a possibility as we move into the overnight hours in Kenora. Areas like Dryden, they are under a severe thunderstorm warning as well, but they saw a mix of sun and cloud for most of the day. They're at 24, similar to that of Kenora and Sioux Lookout as well. Sioux Lookout also has a high possibility of some rain today. Pickle Lake dodged it for the most part. They're at 23 right now under cloudy conditions. Fort Frances is cloudy as well. They, of course, saw some showers, but it's taking a bit of a break for now. They could potentially see some more later, but they're at 26 right now, similar to that of Atikokan and Upsala and Armstrong, who have had a mix of sun and cloud throughout the day today. But as the system moves, it is predicted to move a little bit overnight, so they could see some later. Areas that were a little cooler today included Nipigon, Marathon, and Wawa. They were more low to mid-20s, but that humidex still making it feel high 20s to the low 30s. Greenstone, though, is nice and sunny right now, and most areas here, especially Wawa, saw a mainly sunny day as well. But Sault Ste. Marie, they had a cloudier day that has now become sunnier. They're at 27 now, with that humidity playing a factor as well. So very hot day across the region with those storms mainly to the northwest. Now for tonight in Thunder Bay, we do have a 30% chance of showers overnight. Luckily, no risk of thunderstorms, so that's good to see. Just about a 30% chance, mainly cloudy for the most part, and a low of 15. So still quite a warm night, and more interesting things to come as I'll give you the details on that later. But like I said, hopefully cooler soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks a lot, Haley.
Yeah, no problem.
Well, voters in a couple of ridings in Winnipeg and Montreal are turning up the heat on the Trudeau Liberals. There's a couple of by-elections there that did not go the Liberals' way, and many see it as a sign of what could come in the next general election. We'll have full details on that right after the break.
The big thing is to make sure that Canadians understand that the choice they get to make in the next election about the kind of country we are really matters, and that's the work we're going to continue to do.